Hi there. How you doing? Today, we're going to learn about the Orphic mysteries. We'll talk about the beginnings of this religious tradition, the myths and significant figures involved in it, which includes the fabled musician and poet Orpheus. We'll also examine its beliefs and the sacred rituals that set it apart from other Greek religious practices. And I am going to butcher the hell out of some of these names, so I apologize in advance. Let's do this. Orphism's roots can be traced back to the 6th century BCE, where it emerged as a unique form of religious beliefs and practices distinct from the dominant Olympian religion, followed by the majority of the ancient Greeks. While the Olympian religion focused on the worship of gods like Zeus, Hera, and Apollo at grand temples and through public ceremonies, Orphism proposed a more personal spiritual path. The birth of Orphism is shrouded in myth and legend, much like the shadowy Orpheus himself, who is said to be the founder of these mysteries. He was a figure of immense cultural significance, a legendary musician capable of charming beasts and even inanimate objects with his divine music. It's said that after his tragic attempt to retrieve his wife Eurydice from the underworld, he became a proponent of a new set of spiritual beliefs. Orphism imbued its followers with a worldview that was more introspective and focused on the soul's immortality and its journey after death. This was a dramatic shift from the communal and civic religion of the time. It centered around primarily sacrifices and rituals to appease the gods for worldly benefits. Orpheus believed that the soul was divine and eternal, trapped within the human body, and that living through a pure life and partaking in specific rites, one could achieve liberation and return to a divine state. The significance of Orphism within the broader scope of Greek religious practices lay in its challenge to the status quo, offering an alternative path to spirituality. It appealed to those seeking a more personal connection to the divine, or those who perhaps questioned the conventional religious and societal norms. It was in many ways a precursor to later philosophical schools of thought that would come to dominate Greek intellectual life. Now, the Orphic movement stood out with its unique set of literature and texts. It was often referred to as the Orphic hymns, poems attributed to Orpheus himself, which offered insights into their beliefs and practices. These writings were considered sacred and were used as part of their rituals, which were kept secret from those outside the tradition, like always. In summary, Orphism represented a significant and unique dimension of the religious landscape of ancient Greece. Its emphasis on personal spirituality, the soul's journey, and eternal life was at odds, yet simultaneously within the broader tapestry of Greek religious traditions. Its mysteries continue to intrigue scholars and history enthusiasts alike, as we explore the depths of these ancient practices and their impact on Western spirituality. Orpheus was revered in ancient times as the quintessential poet and musician, and he stands at the heart of the Orphic mysteries. Legend has it that his music had power to charm all creatures, even coaxing trees and rocks into movement. Orpheus's parentage is attributed to the muse Calliope, and either Apollo, the god of music, or, I am going to screw this up, Oeagrus, a Thracian king, or Oeagrus, Oeagrus, whatever, a Thracian king. I already said that. This divine lineage endowed Orpheus with a talent that surpassed all mortals. The most famous tale of Orpheus, a cornerstone of Orphism, is his descent into the underworld after his beloved wife Eurydice suffered a fatal snake bite. Orpheus's grief was unbearable. His love for her was so profound that he dared to venture into the realms of Hades to retrieve her. Using the enchanting power of his lyre, he softened the hearts of the gods and spirits of the underworld. Hades and Persephone, moved by his performance, agreed to let Eurydice return to the living on one condition: Orpheus must not look back at her as they ascend to the surface until they reach the exit of the cave. Now, I need to add to this story. So the story has two parts to it. One of them is Eurydice was hanging out with some nymphs, and what had happened is Orpheus and Eurydice fell in love at first sight, and they lived happily together for a short while. However, Hymen, the god of marriage, came to bless their union, and he told them that their happiness was not to be destined to last. Eurydice traveled with some nymphs not long after the prophecy to a nearby forest. In one version of the tale, they encountered a shepherd, Aristeus, who lusted after Eurydice, and he began to chase her. Another says Eurydice and the nymphs began to dance together. Regardless, Eurydice was distracted and was bitten by a snake and died instantly. Now, when Orpheus heard of his love's death, he sang a song of grief so moving that both the heavens and the earth learned of his loss. Orpheus decided to travel to the underworld. Along his journey, he used his supernatural music to dissuade all obstacles, including Cerberus, the three-headed dog. Orpheus soon met with Hades and Persephone, and he played them a heartbreaking song that moved Hades, the god of death, to tears. Hades agreed to allow Orpheus and Eurydice to return to the land of the living. Under that one condition, Eurydice followed behind Orpheus, and at no point was Orpheus allowed to look back at her until they reached their destination. Orpheus and Persephone. Orpheus and Eurydice thanked the gods, left. No more than a few footsteps from the exit, Orpheus lost all faith, turned to see if Eurydice was behind him. She was there, and Orpheus had to watch as she was pulled back to the underworld as he failed to follow Hades' one condition. Orpheus returned to the land of the living and was consumed by guilt and grief. The final myth about Orpheus is his death, and there are different versions, each having the same ending. So, Orpheus met his death at the hands of Maenads, who were female worshippers of the god Dionysus, who tore him to pieces. The Maenads killed him after he rejects their advances, basically because he swore off love after his failed attempt to save his wife Eurydice, and basically he rejected all women seeking the company of men only. The playwright Aeschylus claims that Dionysus sent the Maenads to kill Orpheus because he disdained worship of the gods apart from Apollo. All right. But all versions end with the Maenads ripping off Orpheus's head, which remained intact and still sang, which that doesn't make any sense. Alive, and it remained alive. His head ended up in Lesbos, and through Zeus's power gained oracular abilities. The people of Lesbos built a shrine for him near Antissa, where pilgrims would travel to ask an oracle for prophecies. Orpheus is never mentioned by either Homer or Hesiod, despite the consensus being that he existed several generations before Homer and the reported events of the Iliad and the Odyssey. Although ancient writers such as Strabo, Pindar, and Apollodorus claim he existed, Homer's lack of any mention of him led thinkers such as Aristotle to deny his existence outright. Anyways, back to the other stuff. So, the story of Orpheus symbolizes the Orphic themes of striving for a divine connection and the consequences of human fallibility. Orphism held that souls were divine and eternal, undergoing cycles of death and rebirth. The objective was to live a pure life through specific rites and dietary restrictions aimed at freeing the soul from the endless cycle and allowing it to return to a state of perfection with the divine. Orpheus, through his quest and his music, symbolically represented the soul's journey, navigating life's hardship in the pursuit of spiritual fulfillment. The mythology surrounding Orpheus also included accounts of his travels, which brought him into contact with various peoples and cults. His immortality was assured not only through his deeds, but through the body of literature and music attributed to his name. The Orphic hymns, a set of religious poems attributed to Orpheus himself, played a significant role in the rituals practiced by his followers. These sacred texts are crucial to understanding Orphic beliefs as they provide insights into the pantheon of Greek gods and the ways in which the Orphics sought to honor and commune with the divine. Orphic tradition held Orpheus as a harbinger of secret knowledge, handed down from the gods concerning the origin of humanity and the cosmos. The Orphic cosmogony recounted a complex narrative involving the primordial gods and the birth of the universe, which starkly contrasted with the standard Greek mythological canon. The legacy of Orpheus is one of transcendence, capturing the human imagination through the power of music and poetry. His life and tales serve as allegories for the soul's capacity for devotion, its vulnerability to temptation, in its ceaseless quest for redemption. By looking closely at the story of Orpheus, we glean a more profound appreciation for the central figures and narratives that shaped the mysterious tapestry of Orphic tradition. Orphism stood distinct among the religious beliefs in ancient Greece. Central to the Orphic tradition were their unique tenets that promised followers a life after death that was more desirable than a typical Greek notion of the underworld. This belief fundamentally separated Orphism from other Greek religious practices, which usually placed less emphasis on individual purification and the afterlife. The followers of Orphism believed in the immortality of the human soul, and that through certain rituals and moral living, one could achieve a better state in the afterlife. And this was a stark contrast to the common Greek belief that the underworld was a gloomy and unforgiving place for all souls. The Orphic doctrines offered an alternative, a salvation, in fact, and a sense of hope that physical death was not the end, but an opportunity for the soul to reach a higher existence. One of the most sacred rituals in Orphism involved the initiation rites. These initiation rites were like a symbolic death and rebirth. The initiates, seeking to cleanse their souls from the taint of their earthly existence, partook in these rites as a testament to their commitment to Orphic values. The rite of passage was shrouded in secrecy, but it's believed to have included recitations of sacred texts, symbolic acts of rebirth, and purification rituals involving water and fasting. Life, death, and rebirth played crucial roles in the Orphic mysteries, mirroring the myth of Dionysus, who was dismembered and reborn. This divine example provided a powerful allegory for Orphism's followers as they sought to emulate the god's journey, shed their bodily ties, and prepare their immortal part for a more exalted future beyond the mortal realm. I find it ironic that Dionysus was dismembered and reborn, and so was Orpheus, completely dismembered, but his head was kept alive. Kind of. I mean, it's not a rebirth, but they were both dismembered. Another striking aspect of the Orphic doctrine was their strict way of life. Orphics adhered to a set of commands that governed their behavior, which included prohibitions against eating certain foods and participating in specific societal customs. Dietary restrictions were always in place, and perhaps most famously avoiding the consumption of meat and beans, which was an injunction traced back to the belief in the transmigration of souls. For Orphics, such abstinence was not mere ritual, it was a fundamental way of purifying oneself and achieving the spirituality necessary for the soul's ascension. These core beliefs and rituals solidified the Orphic tradition as an esoteric path to enlightenment, one that promised its followers a break from the cycle of life and rebirth, offering instead a path towards eternal joy in the afterlife. The Orphic mysteries were a beacon of spiritual awakening in an era defined by multifaceted religious ideas, symbolizing a profound journey that begins in the mortal world but seeks to end far beyond its confines. And that's all I got for today. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you next time.